You're listening to ABA One-on-One Podcast.
Come explore the No Strings Attached e-news online magazine. Our global array of authors inspire, delight, and educate with practical and entertaining articles. And with Focus On, we help producers of film, web series, and other video content attract a wider audience. Plus, your project can stream on Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, and more with our media partners E360 TV and NETV. No Strings Attached e-news, focusing on human interest. Advertising available, nsaen.com.
Hi guys, CJ here. We currently have a few positions available for relationship managers. If you would like the opportunity to work in sports marketing, this could be it. The ABA is the largest pro league in the world and partnered with the AAU, representing over 700,000 athletes around the world. Building business relationships and helping bring new audiences to every business we're working with is the goal. We're not limited to one state or region. Businesses partnering with sports is always a win-win for the community. Sound interesting? Then drop us an email and get more information at jobs@aba1on1.club, and we'll get back to you right away. Hey guys, it's time for a new episode of ABA One-on-One.
Open up, yeah. Open up now. Open up. Open up, yeah. Open up. Open up now. I give a damn dog, give him a bone. Give a damn dog a bone. I give a damn dog, give him a bone. Give a damn dog a bone. I give him a bone.
Guys, welcome back to ABA 101. Wow, we're here again. Episode 27, I think. Wow, we're doing good. Today on the show, we got Kelvin Sampson, coach extraordinary. Don't know where to go. That's just how we feel about him, what he's impacted in Oklahoma, and I'm going to let that go for a moment. But I want to welcome my co-hosts, Brian and Rick, back to the show as well. Guys, let's talk basketball.
Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks. First and foremost, Coach, welcome. Great having you on board, man. I guess me and you go a long way back, just as you and Rick go a long way back. But again, like CJ said, this show is about you, really, and it's about talking basketball. So I guess I'll kick it off with a question. What got you into it? What got you started in basketball, Coach?
Well, Brian, I'm not going to go there yet. I want to talk about you first.
Okay.
It's I'm sitting here listening to Rick Walden and Brian Vaughns. I've known Rick since my college days, when I played in college in Pembroke, North Carolina, little at the time NAIA college in Southeast North Carolina. I remember Rick was an outstanding player at Methodist College, another small college in the same area. His college coach was my college coach. That's how far back Rick and I go. And Rick has been a good friend for a long time. I've known Rick, I guess, since I was 21 years old, which as of Monday was, I guess about 43 years ago now. And
wow.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. The first outstanding player that I signed in my coaching career was Brian Vaughns. I'm not sure how many listeners know this, but Brian was drafted into the NBA. He played for me as a freshman and sophomore, right, Brian?
Yeah.
And then I left. Then I left Montana Tech and went to Washington State University as an assistant coach. I think I was 27 or 28 years old at the time, and then when I left to go to Washington State, Brian transferred from Montana Tech to our University of California, Santa Barbara with Jerry Pym and Ben Howland.
Yeah.
And was one of the best players in that conference and wound up getting drafted. Who drafted you, Brian?
Milwaukee Bucks.
Milwaukee Bucks drafted Brian, but Brian was a 6'7", 6'8" player. Didn't really have a position. I played him at the 5. He jumped center, but could guard anybody. Unbelievable athlete. At the time, I'm sure he's the best player that conference had ever seen, and we won 2 conference championships with Brian. I think we won 3 overall, but just unbelievable success. Brian had a lot to do. Brian's had a lot to do with a lot of the success we had there. And then we started getting other players around him. But Brian Vaughns is just not. It just makes me feel good to know that he did good with his life, because he impacted so many lives in Butte, Montana. He had such a big fan club and a fan base. Those people absolutely loved him. They called him Flying Brian Vaughns. And he had the personality. He had the personality and character to go along with it, because he had a smile. He loved kids. Kids loved him. People would, after games, people would bring us bags of cinnamon. Remember that, Brian? Cinnamon buns and cookies and elk steaks. I mean,
oh yes, indeed.
I didn't know what an elk was before I went to Montana.
Coach, you know what you're doing, Coach. Coach, you're about to ruin our show, because now Brian's going to say, "Screw this! You're not paying me enough money. I'm going out by myself."
That's right. I'm demanding more.
Yeah. No, Brian's one of my all-time favorites. I just saw Brian last September. They flew us back to Montana and put us in the Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Fame,
right there. Yeah. And Brian. It's just good to see. There's a lot of those kids I had not seen since 1985, and
wow.
And it was just good seeing them. Hearing about their families and what they've done with their lives. That's the neat thing about coaching, is relationships you build and able to impact some lives along the way.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, that certainly brings back some memories. We had some great times up in Butte, Montana.
Butte, Montana.
Butte, Montana. That's what it was. But I just want to say, Coach, first and foremost, man, you've had probably the biggest influence on my basketball career that anyone has ever had, in terms of how I carried myself on the court, how I drove myself to try and be the best player. Because I remember, and this is just a story for you guys. Coach used to have us do these things called bench jumps, where we had to.
I know where you got those from.
I got those from Coach Ned Sampson at Magnolia High School.
Well, I can tell you, we used to do these bench jumps, and I remember one time we were doing the bench jumps, and I think it was for your final bench jump test. And I was jumping my butt off. I was pushing myself, and I kind of rested. I just stopped in between one jump and tried to take a breath in. And before I could get that breath in, Coach blew the whistle. "Don't you ever quit on me, you little young such and such."
Yeah.
It actually made me take that test again. But the great part about it is that that drove me to push even harder to achieve more that next time. I never forgot that lesson, and I'm always taking that lesson with me. So,
Rick, I'm sure that brings back memories from Rick. But my father was the greatest influence on me as a growing up, and he was inducted into the North Carolina High School Coaches Hall of Fame in 2002, I think.
Yeah, it was.
But he had this guy that was a milkman. Later on, became a milkman, but he played for my dad. His name was Sam Oxendine, and Sam Oxendine could jump that bench 109 times in 1 minute, and he was always the gold standard. And I've made. I don't do it now. I think the last teams. I had a kid named Hollis Price at Oklahoma that did 110. And then I had a kid at Washington State University named Mark Hendrickson, who got drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers and the Toronto Blue Jays. He played in the NBA for about 4 years, but he also pitched in the Major League Baseball for 14 years. So I've had but I've always held guys to Sam Oxendine's standard, just an old country boy from right outside of Lumberton, North Carolina.
Wow, fantastic. Because I tell you, that certainly drove me. I mean,
But it's amazing. It's amazing, Brian, how many my former players at Montana Tech and Washington State and in those early years at Oklahoma still talk about it. I don't think I did it much after I had a kid get hurt, and I said, it's probably time to retire the old bench jump. I'll figure out something else to do.
Well, I know Joe Gallagher was into that too. We used to do that. I forgot how many jumps I had. It wasn't nowhere close to that, but he did that.
Yeah.
And,
He did something similar. But Coach Ned Sampson's the way he did it was what I always remembered.
Yeah. Joe used to put the 2x4 between the two chairs.
Yeah, you're right, Rick. He did
right about your knee, and you had to jump it so many times.
Yeah, he did do that.
But
I'll tell you, it's had an impact on me. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I had a question, Kelvin, and then you kind of just answered it. I was going to ask the impact that your coaches, namely your dad and Joe Gallagher, had on your coaching philosophy and your and the way you went about doing things, and you pretty much just answered that question.
Yeah, I don't think as far as my coaching philosophy, I don't think either one of them had much of an impact on my philosophy. My philosophy came from trial and error. I was a head coach in college when I was 24. So I had to figure things out on my own. I think every young coach has to figure it out on his own. Guys that try to be like other coaches usually don't make it. And I don't know that anybody failed more than I did. My first couple years, I knew how to coach, but I didn't know how to coach. Everybody, coaching is one of those professions. Everybody can do it until you have to do it. But I just learned by trial and error. I was coaching in a league with other good coaches that had winning programs and school that had never had a winning season, which is why I got the job. I tell people, how did you get the job when you were so young? I said, because it was a horrible job. If it was a good job, then they never hired me. They hired a good coach. But I was the 6th coach in 3 years. That's how bad the job was.
Wow.
Every degree curriculum at that school required a minimum of 30 credits of math if you were in engineering. And one of the and I've always tried to be an outside the box thinker. I went to the vice president was named Vic Burt. You remember that name, Brian?
Do you remember that name? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Vic Burt was the vice president, and we started doing pretty good. And but I was recruiting mostly white kids from Montana, and but I wanted to expand our recruiting, and so I told him we need to. We're in a conference with liberal arts colleges. These schools have, everything from sociologies. Most of them were health, physical education majors, business degrees. But I said, if somehow we could diversify our curriculum, I can get kids in here that don't want to be engineers. Just because you don't want to be an engineer don't mean you're not a good student. Yeah. So he came up with this curriculum called Occupational Safety and Health, which fit in with the engineering curriculum. And then he also added some IT majors and computer science curriculums, and I was able to expand our recruiting base, and that's how we started going. We went from never had a winning season. My first year we were 7-20, which was a 3-game increase in wins from the year before. The guy that I replaced went 4-23. We went 7-20, and then everybody was slapping me on the back, telling me what a great job I had done. I said, I must be the only guy in history who lose 20 games, and people want to give me a brand new contract. And by the way, my contract, I think I was making $16,500.
Wow.
At that time. And then the next year we went from finishing in last place. The next year we won the league. We won the championship, cut the nets down, and we did that for three straight years. I think we had 3 straight 21 seasons, and we just got better and better and better. But Rick asked a good question. I just don't think coaches steal philosophies from other coaches. You know, my philosophy is my philosophy. You know, I got it because I failed. You know, you don't, somebody does it, you can't do it like somebody else. You know, I've had 7 assistant coaches go on to be head coaches, and the thing that I told them out the door was be your own person. Mm-hmm. You know, people's going to ask you, what did you learn from Coach Sampson? You know, you can talk about the things that we do, but the thing that I want you to do as a head coach is coach the team your way. Don't coach it like I coach mine, because I don't coach my team like anybody else. I coach it my way. But you've got to figure out how you want to coach your team. You know, you can't watch my teams on TV and decide, I think I'll do that. Well, you can't do that because you're not me. Like I can't watch someone else coach and do it like them. I have no idea how. I would have no idea how to do it because I'm not that person.
Yeah.
But my dad influenced me because he was a coach. Joe Gallagher influenced me because he was my college coach. But as far as coaching like either one, I don't think I could coach anything like either one of those guys.
See, you bring up a great point, because here, like I'm into coaching. I've been coaching here now in Australia for some 20 plus years. I run a sports academy where I turn out players every year and try and send them over to U.S. colleges, but I also coach senior men, senior women here. And one of the biggest problems that I find with coaches here is that they would look at a video and they would watch a Mike Krzyzewski video, or they would watch a John Calipari or a Kelvin Sampson video, and then try and emulate what they've seen in the video. And the message I try and get across to a lot of them, as well as players here, is that you need to understand what your personnel is and who you got that's going to make you successful. It's not going to be what you see on the video. And I find that really diminishes a lot of the talent that comes out of Australia in terms of these players actually growing, because a lot of them are pigeonholed based on some videos that coaches look at. Right.
Well, I think, I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
No, go ahead, you're fine.
No, I was just saying that I think, that coaching professions, like any other profession, I think, you try to look at people that are successful, people that are winning, people that are doing the right thing.
That's right.
And you take bits and pieces. You're not taking all of their philosophy or all their strategy and all that stuff, but you can learn from those coaches. What are you going to do with 4 seconds left in the game and you're down 3? What do you just the philosophical things or strategy things you can learn from a lot of different coaches. That's just, I think.
Yeah. No, you do. Coaches are thieves. They steal from they steal from each other. When I went to Oklahoma, I was running a 1-4 offense, and that that they hadn't really seen a lot of. And it caught the league, really surprised the league, and it really influenced Oklahoma high school coaches because we started having the biggest team camps in probably a 3 or 4 state area because coaches wanted to come down and spend time because I was doing a coaching clinic every Wednesday night during our team camp, and everybody wanted to run our 1-4, and they kept calling it the Kelvin Sampson 1-4 offense. And I started feeling guilty about that because I stole that offense from Ralph Miller, who, when I was the head coach at Washington State, when I was 30 years old, was the head coach at Oregon State University when he was in his mid-60s. And I was just mesmerized by it. I just loved it because his best players were his perimeter players, 1, 2s, and 3s. His bigs were not low post scorers, but they were 6'7" to 6'10" skill guys that could pass and shoot outside. I mean, at a school like Washington State University, I had a better chance of getting outstanding guards than I have getting good bigs. And then there was another coach I coached against who was at New Mexico named Gary Colson, and he was running the same thing. And so one guy was in Albuquerque, the other guy was in Corvallis, Oregon. It's similar situations to Corvallis, especially in a rural area where it's tough to recruit, kids, especially big kids. You don't always get good guards because there's so many of them. But to Rick's point, I don't think you steal people's philosophy, but I do think you can steal a lot of X's and O's.
Yeah. Getting to, you mentioned something briefly just then that caught my recruiting. Okay, so recruiting. Now, the question I want to pose is, what do you think makes a stronger program? Do you think it's the recruiting that builds the program, or do you think it's the program that draws the recruits? So, if you're a winning program, are you getting more recruits coming in, or a higher class of recruits?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're at. For me, it's an easy answer because I've done it 3 times. Montana Tech had a terrible program. They didn't have a program. Washington State had lost. I think they had 5 or 6 consecutive losing seasons. So, but I kept getting those jobs. So when you ask me what's more important, players. Starts with players. Now, you're not gonna. While I was in the Pac-10, we beat everybody at Arizona. We beat UCLA multiple times. I think we beat University of Washington 7 consecutive times. Stanford, Cal, all those teams. We could beat them all. But that happened over time. When we first went there, I think my first year, we were 7-22. Just like my first year at Montana Tech, we were 7-20. But that's why I was getting those jobs, because they fired the coach and they were looking to hire a new coach. And hiring a new coach is a gamble. You don't always know what you're getting. But Montana Tech and Washington State had to be not rebuilt, had to be built. There was only one coach at Washington State that had ever won, and that was George Raveling. And he left. He had some good seasons and left and went to Iowa and wound up at USC, and I coached against him in that league then. But, I think it starts with players. But if you don't know how to build a program, it's not going to be sustained. The thing that we've been able to do wherever we've been is have sustained success. People talk about going to the Final Four and the Elite Eight and Sweet 16 multiple times at Oklahoma. That's great. But the thing I was most proud of while I was at University of Oklahoma, we were there 12 years. And every year for 12 years, we were ranked in the top 25 every year for 12 years. That's
Yep.
difficult to do. So
Wow.
when you're ranked in the top 25 for 12 consecutive years, that means you have a great program.
Hey, you
Yeah.
still hold the record behind Billy Tubbs. Now that's saying something. Most wins. So as a coach, that's awesome, man. That
Yeah.
is. I'm an Oklahoma boy, so I pay attention.
Yeah, but Billy proved Oklahoma could win at a national level. I didn't do that at Oklahoma. Billy did.
Yeah.
Billy did that before I got there. He proved it. And I was trending downward a little bit. And I think it was Billy would be the first to tell you, as he got crossways with the administration and he got out of there. And we brought it back up quickly. But the reason we brought it up quickly, because Billy had done it for so long. And Billy had the best team in America in 1988 and lost to Danny Manning and the Miracles from Kansas. They were the best team in the country that year. But Oklahoma has had a long, proud basketball tradition. A lot of people don't know what a great tradition it's been because football is so dominant at that
so
school.
True.
But football is one of the 3 or 4 greatest programs in the history of college football. But Oklahoma basketball, I would say, is one of the top 20.
Okay.
But Kelvin, I agree with that. I think Billy Tubbs, was a victim of his own success. I think after he won so much, then when he did have a couple years, it wasn't quite as great. I think people thought something was wrong because I think, after he lost went to the Final Four and, he was so good every year, then you have 1 or 2 slipping years and all of a sudden now, he of his own success.
Yeah, there's probably some truth to that. Rick, especially when you change presidents and ADs, and there's a tendency not to have seen it as you were building it up, and maybe you don't get the people don't respect you and don't show you that respect. The AD that hired Billy and the president was there when Billy was hired. Treated Billy, with tremendous respect. They he's constantly being told how great he is, and all of a sudden those guys are gone. New guys come in. And, Billy wants the program to continue to grow, and they didn't give him what he wanted. And, he just got crossways with them. But Billy Tubbs, to me, is Oklahoma basketball. I appreciate what people say about me, but, Billy Tubbs, to me, is the greatest coach to ever come through there.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
Now, also, Coach, you have a storied career, man. You've coached college, you've coached professionals, you've changed programs, turned programs around. Now, a lot of questions that I used to feel when people would talk to me about yourself is your role and why haven't you wanted to do, say, or pursue the NBA career given all the success that you've had at the college level. Now, one thing I always would say is that I think, for me personally, I think you develop players better. I mean, I don't know as far as the program is concerned.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
What's your take?
Yeah, there's some truth to that. I won't name the team. I interviewed for a couple of jobs. I just didn't get them. They decided to hire somebody else. One of them I really wanted. My wife and I we own 2 homes in the state of North Carolina. One's about 20 minutes outside Charlotte, and the other one's up in toward the mountains. We have a lake house up there. So, but I interviewed for the Charlotte Hornets job during the combine in Chicago. Okay. And the second time that I did it was with Michael. We all know who he is. But they decided to go with Steve Clifford, and I thought that was a great choice. I mean, Steve is an NBA guy, but there is an NBA job that I was offered, the head coaching job at. Won't mention it because it's not fair to them. to say I turned it down, but I don't know if you turn it down sounds almost egotistical. I just thought that, you know, I have my son and my daughter. I've got 2 grandkids here. You know, we do okay from a contractual standpoint. We're happy. You know, once you get to be 60, you may not be able to see the end, but you can, but you know it's there, and you get to be year to year, and my family was happy, and I know that the organization that wanted me to come and build a culture and get them going a little bit. That was probably a 2-year deal, 3-year deal, maybe. You know, unless you have great partnership with, you know, like Eric Spoelstra has Pat Riley. You know, that's a great partnership. You just don't see that a lot. You know, Pop is his own boss. Pop's the general manager. He's the president. He's the CEO. He's all of that. He's not the owner, but he's everything. He and R.C. Buford have a great partnership. But there's not a lot of great partnerships in the NBA, you know. And most guys that think they know the NBA, you don't know what you don't know, you know, unless you've been inside those gyms and locker rooms and conference rooms and meeting rooms and draft meetings and organizational meetings. Sometimes things aren't quite what you seem. You know, we all have opinions of what it might be like, but you know, trying to describe what it's like to be in the NBA on a daily basis for 6 years would be like trying to describe what the Atlantic Ocean looks like to somebody that's never seen water.
Say no more, my man. Say no more.
That's it.
There's some, you know, you don't know what you don't know. You know,
Yeah.
I don't disparage people for having opinions, but you know, the more someone talks, the more opinions they have, the less they know. I found that's been kind of a been my observation with people that talk a lot.
There you go. There you go.
Well,
I always have
Kelvin, before we get off of here, I got one question I had written down because it's something that I think you've done an unbelievable job of, because I've done a lot of studies and a lot of listening to podcasts and whatnot on culture, developing a team culture.
Yeah.
I think that may be, in my opinion, one of your main strengths, because you've built a culture and maintained a consistent culture. I think the key word is consistent. Mm-hmm. Anybody can do it for 1 or 2 years or 3 years, doing it over your career. Is there anything about building a culture that you think? Yeah.
No, it's a great observation, first of all, Rick. That's another thing that you don't learn from anybody. It's not something you can pick up. You know, it's like calculus or advanced statistics. You either know how to do it or you don't. You know, I mean, you can copy somebody's paper, I guess, and get it that way. Yeah, but you know, it's like being a good coach. It's like building a culture, knowing how to substitute. Those aren't things you read in a book. It's a feel. You know, it's like basketball IQ or instinct. You or knowing how to deal with people, knowing how to build relationships where you can coach them. You know, John Thompson was really good to me. He told me at the Final Four one time, he pulled me over with some other guys, and he said, "Come here, young man, you got a chance to be really good in this profession, but just remember this, you can't call them MF until they know you love them." And there's a lot of truth. There's a lot of truth behind that when it goes into building culture, because I'm a demander. You know, is you know, having a personal standard for yourself. You know, lazy coaches never make it. And let me tell you something, fellas. There's a lot of lazy coaches. That's why the hardest thing to teach in basketball is defense, because you have to work at it so hard. You have to work at it. You don't get there on game night and start being a good start coaching defense. You have to do it every single day. You know, I think 2 years ago, our record the last 3 years here is 83-20. That's our record. Last 3 years, 83-20. And each one of those 3 years, our defense has been ranked in the top. The 33-4 team was 8th in the nation defensively. The 27-7 team was 12th or 13th. And then last year's team, we had we didn't start any freshmen. The youngest team I've ever had, actually. I think we were 22nd or 23rd. But that's where it starts with me, with culture. You know, getting kids to compete versus playing hard. You know, everybody plays hard. But I thought that was what was the difference in us and, say, the College of Great Falls, Brian. We competed.
Yeah.
But jumping that bench and jumping that jump rope for 5 minutes without stopping at the pace I asked you to jump it at, running those 3 miles and running all those sprints, that's part of building a culture, you know. But the hardest worker in practice every day has to be the head coach. There's 3 people that can never have a bad practice: the head coach, the point guard, and the best player.
Yeah.
And the head coach has to make sure of that. You know, I coach harder in practice. You know, I won't miss coaching games. You know, I've coached a lot of games, and the Big Ten, the Big 12, the Pac-10, the American Athletic Conference, and the Frontier Conference. Coached a lot of games. You know, it's my 32nd year as a head coach. Done that a lot. But what I'll miss is preparing my team for battle. You know, getting ready to go to war with them, and getting them to get outside their comfort zones, and getting them to a level that they never dreamed that they could get to. That's what I'll miss. I'll miss that. You know, walking into the McKell Center at Arizona, or walking into Connecticut's gym, or Michigan State's gym, or Duke's gym. I don't care about that. That doesn't do anything for me. But getting my team ready to go play those teams, that's what I'll miss.
Wow. Hey, well said. Hey, Coach, look, we're about to run out of time here, but man, this has been the most insightful view from a coach that I've heard in a while. And we thoroughly enjoyed it. I want to really thank you for being on our show, man. And like I always tell the guys, whenever I'm quiet, that means somebody's really talking something that makes sense, because I'm listening, because I've been listening.
Well, those two guys you got on that show were dear parts of my past. Rick,
well, I appreciate you saying that, Kelvin.
In college,
sure.
And Rick was a hell of a player at Methodist. He was really, really good. And then
awesome.
Brian Vons, Flying Brian, was. There's a reason he's a Hall of Famer. This is a kid from the streets of Camden, New Jersey, that made his way out to Butte, Montana, and became a Hall of Famer. That's a hell of a story now.
There you go. There you go. All right, guys. Well, we got to wrap it up. We don't want it to cut out on us.
Okay, guys.
We're gonna say thanks.
Thank you, guys.
And
thank you guys for having me on.
And thank you,
Kelvin,
for being here, guys. And,
Kelvin, I appreciate it, man.
And thank everybody. And we thank everybody for checking out the show, ABA 101, and we'll be back to do it again, guys. Everyone take care, all right? Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
All right,
See
guys.
Bye, Kelvin.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
Sassy B Worldwide Productions. With over 25 years of entertainment experience, we have done it all. Celebrity appearances, red carpet events, image consultation, and branding design. Our clients range from American football stars to Hollywood celebrities and everyone in between. Want to make a splash in the entertainment industry? Then it's time to get sassy. SassyBWorldwide.com.
The American Basketball Association is the largest pro league in the world. Some great opportunities for team ownership are available, and the cost may surprise you. If you've ever thought about team ownership in a pro league, give us the opportunity to help make it a reality. Reach out to us for more info. For USA teams at www.abaliveaction.com. In Australia, go to www.abaleagueaustralia.com.
Well, that's going to do it for this week. Remember, you can keep up with every episode by subscribing via our website. Follow us on social media and tell your friends about us. Next week, new guests, more basketball tips, more basketball stories about the game we all love. Till then, be safe and keep your eyes on the ball.